I was driving at night in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. The highway stretches ahead of me like a dark river, winding through forests that whisper against the cold glass of my windows. I'm on my way to join a lakeside hotel as its new manager, a position I needed more than I care to admit. Despite my girlfriend's worries about the long drive and the isolation of the place, I convinced myself it would be fine. I told her the job would steady things, maybe even set them right again. The road signs grow rarer the farther north I go, their green faces dulled by frost and time. I follow US 141 through a silence so deep it feels almost alive, interrupted only by the rhythmic hum of tires and the occasional sigh of wind across the hood. Somewhere beyond these endless woods lies Keweenaw Bay and the hotel that waits for me at its edge. Remote, quiet, and cold as the moonlit water it overlooks. I had planned to leave earlier, to reach before midnight, but life has its own ways of delaying you when you need to move most. So, here I am, headlights cutting through the dark, the world shrinking to two beams of pale light, and the thought that every mile north pulls me deeper into something I can't quite name yet. That was the month of April, but up here, the calendar meant little. Winter always outstayed its welcome in the Upper Peninsula. The late snowstorm had started just as I'd expected, thin flakes first, then a steady white curtain closing in on the road. The wipers beat in slow, tired arcs, already struggling to keep up. The heater hummed low, pushing out air that smelled faintly of dust and plastic. My eyelids grew heavy, the monotony of the drive lulling me into a half-dreaming state. I needed an energy drink, something cold, something sharp, to trick my body into believing it wasn't so late. My throat was dry, my hands stiff on the steering wheel. I hadn't passed a town in what felt like an eternity, just miles of wood and snow, the ghostly reflection of my headlights on the drifts. Then, through the blur of falling flakes, a faint glow appeared ahead. A sign, crooked and half buried in snow. Gas station, 1 mile. I felt an immediate foolish relief. When I reached the turnoff, the light was barely visible, a dim orange bulb flickering against the white. The station sat off the main road in the middle of a field, distant and lonely, its shape barely discernible through the storm. For a moment, I wondered if it was even open, or if some traveler before me had left the light burning. But I turned anyway. I needed that drink more than comfort, and the thought of a warm building, any building, was enough to pull me off the highway and into the whiteness that swallowed everything else. Just at the entrance of the gas station, my headlights caught the glint of metal scattered across the road. 4 cars stood there, parked haphazardly, as if their drivers had left in a hurry, or worse, never had the chance to park properly at all. The snow had piled against their tires, and for a fleeting moment I thought it must have been an accident brought on by the storm. I slowed to a crawl and stopped. The wind pressed against the car like a living thing, whispering through the gaps in the door seals. When I stepped out, the cold bit through my jacket, and the silence was immediate and heavy. I approached the vehicles one by one. There was no one inside any of them. All the windows were shattered, the glass frosted over from within. A nervous breath escaped me before I even realized I was holding it. Then I saw it. Dark streaks on one of the car's doors, thin at first, then thicker, smeared across the window. Blood. My stomach clenched. In the snow between the cars, faint but distinct, were footprints. Bare footprints. They led away from the wrecked vehicles and across the road, trailing red where they pressed into the white. I pulled out my phone and tried dialing 911, but the screen mocked me with a single word: no signal. The storm howled louder, as if the wind itself wanted me to move on. I looked toward the gas station. The building was old, sagging beneath a skeletal canopy. The sign was half lit, the bulb inside flickering like it was struggling to stay alive. In the dim orange glow, the The station looked less like a refuge and more like something preserved from another time, abandoned, forgotten. Time, people like me passing through, or maybe the station itself, had massive scratches all over it, as if a large animal had been trying to break in. Then I noticed the house. It stood beside the station, small and square, its windows dark except for one faint curtain movement. The bloody footprints led toward it, winding through the snow, as if whoever made them had gone there deliberately. I remember standing there, snow swirling around my boots, staring at that house and feeling the world narrow to a single point of decision. Do I follow or do I leave? Against my better judgment, I decided to follow. Every instinct in me said to get back in the car, turn around, and keep driving, but the thought of someone hurt and alone in this storm wouldn't let me go. I couldn't just leave them, not out here. Before I followed the trail, I stepped inside the gas station. The glass door creaked like it hadn't moved in years. The fluorescent tubes overhead were dead, and the shelves inside were mostly bare. Dusty bottles, a few rusted cans, and a calendar still showing a year long gone. It was definitely abandoned. Poor souls, I thought. They must have seen the sign like I did, thought there was help here, and ended up crashing in the middle of nowhere. I turned back to the tracks. My drowsiness was gone. Adrenaline replaced the fatigue, each breath a sharp bite of winter air. The tracks led me straight toward the house beside the station. Its roof sagged under the snow, and the windows were black, reflections of the faint parking lot light glimmering off their cracked glass. When I reached the porch, I hesitated. The wood under my boots let out a slow groan. I knocked, once, twice. No answer. I listened but heard only the wind pushing through the trees. Then I noticed a faint glow from inside, barely visible through a slit in the curtains. Curiosity, or maybe duty, overpowered the unease curling in my chest. I tried the handle. It turned easily. Too easily. The door swung open with a hollow sigh. I lifted my phone, its flashlight cutting a pale cone through the dark. The air was stale, heavy, and smelled faintly of iron and mold. Dust floated in the beam, swirling slowly. The furniture was sparse, an old couch with its stuffing spilling out, a wooden table with one leg splintered, wallpaper curling at the corners like dried leaves. The strangest thing was the sound, or rather the lack of it. No hum of electricity, no creak of movement, just the faint whisper of snow against the windows. And yet, something felt present. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. In one room, the mirror above the dresser was cracked, and behind the glass, my reflection looked wrong, stretched, distorted by the fracture lines. A child's toy sat on the floor beside it, a small wooden car with one wheel missing, half buried in dust. Fear tightened around my ribs. I wanted to go, but when I turned toward the door, something caught my eye. A faint shimmer near the floor at the end of the hall. I stepped closer. The light that drew me here wasn't coming from a lamp or a candle at all. It was seeping up from a hatch in the floor. Faint, flickering light pulsing through the cracks, like something alive down there. I stood there for some time, frozen at the edge of the hatch, my breath shallow and clouding in the cold air. The dull light kept flickering up through the gap like a heartbeat beneath the floorboards. Finally, I reached down and pulled. The hatch opened with a deep groan, a sound that seemed far too loud in the stillness of that house. My flashlight cut into the darkness below. A narrow staircase descended into the basement, the steps worn and splintered. Then, the light caught something darker along the wooden treads, smears of blood drying in streaks that gleamed faintly red. My pulse thundered in my ears. I can't explain why I decided to go down there. Maybe it was the thought, foolish, desperate, that someone had been hurt, had dragged themselves below looking for warmth or shelter. Maybe it was guilt, or curiosity. Whatever it was, it overrode fear just long enough to make me put one foot on that first step. I descended slowly,
The air grew thicker with each step, heavy with a metallic tang that made me want to cover my mouth. It smelled of rust and blood and something older, something that didn't belong to this world. When I reached the bottom, my flashlight found the source of the glow. An old wooden table with a single candle burning at the center, flame trembling, barely alive. Around it sat several figures, slumped slightly, motionless. Their dim light painted them in soft orange tones that for a brief second almost looked like human. Relief flared in me. "Are you all right?" I called out, my voice breaking the silence. "Do you need help?" They stirred, all at once. Slow movements, deliberate, synchronized in a way that made my throat go dry. I counted 5, no, 6 of them.
Their skin was pale, stretched too tight across their faces, their hair long and matted, their clothes ragged and dark with stains I didn't want to name. As they rose, I saw claw-like scratches across their arms and faces, like they'd been mauled by an animal, or something worse. They began to whisper, low and strange, their voices rasping in a rhythm that didn't sound like any language I'd ever heard. Then I saw their eyes. They glowed faintly in the candlelight, pale, bright green, reflecting back my flashlight like the eyes of an animal caught in the dark. For one horrifying moment, they all turned toward me in unison. Every nerve in my body screamed. I ran. I stumbled halfway up the stairs, hit the wall, slipped again, but adrenaline kept me moving. I crashed through the main floor, out the door, lungs burning, snow whipping my face. Somehow, I found my car and hurled myself inside, slamming the lock down with shaking hands. The engine coughed, then started. I looked once more at the house as I sped away. They were there, silhouettes standing in a row on the porch, unmoving except for the wind tugging at their torn clothes, their eyes still burning with that ghostly shade of green. I didn't slow down, not until the faint light of the gas station disappeared completely behind me, swallowed by the storm.
If you like the story, please like and subscribe.